Hey, hello. So I didn't actually think I would be talking about the Clan Collection reveals again this quickly, like one day later. But here we are, Genesis reveals coming out right after Oracle. We've got three different cards. We've got Apple Witch Cider, Yatagurusu, and Himiko Reverse. I'll just go through them one by one. Apple Witch Cider, which is a funny one actually, because previously that card has been Regalia support. It never worked with anything else. It was designed to be used with Angelica Minerva, but this time round it seems that it may not have a subclan restriction to it. And not only that, but I think in Vanguard 0, Apple Witch Cider doesn't require Regalia Vanguards either, so they really are disowning the Regalia association with this card. So the first skill apparently might involve, at the end of the battle, it boosted Soul Charge and return it to hand, so a hit and run card. I don't think it's going to be like Soul Charge 2 or 3, I think it's going to be Soul Charge 1. The reason being is because we already have cards like Hattie, and we have like that on-hit grade 1 Witch card, which would Soul Charge 3, so they're not going to try and invalidate those cards. So I think it's going to be just Soul Charge 1. It is a grade 1 though, so if you get in the early game, you can technically get 3 Soul by turn 3, if that's the case. It'll probably be like a Yellow Bolt, in a way. But then, and by Yellow Bolt, I'm talking about the original Yellow Bolt, not the V-Series, where you just use it passively across multiple turns. But the bit about return to hand as well, making it so that it's used as a Guardian, just like the original. But the difference is, the original Guardian was actually used to Soul Charge with other cards that you guard with. But this one here, instead of Soul Charging cards to guard with, where the Soul Charge is already covered by the first skill anyway, which is the boost, but it's now got the whole shield buff based on how much Soul you have. So that's going to be interesting. We've got like some crazy Guardian. We had a card a while back called, what's it called? Hold on a second, let me just check its name, because I can get this wrong sometimes. Yeah, it was Libertina of Burial Rites. So Libertina of Burial Rites was like a grade 2 that gained 5k shield for every grade that the other unit in your hand that you revealed had. So if you had like Valkyrie, it'd be like 25k shield extra, making it 30k. But it was a count plus 1 cost as well, and not many people play Valkyrian, or not many builds play Valkyrian. The grade 3s would usually be in your hand, so you can maybe have 20k shield. There's also grade 1 called Vegeta, which could also gain shield. That would go up to 20k. So Cider might be a better version of that, maybe. I don't know. Vegeta can gain force markers, which Cider can't, so there is potential for Cider to out-creep it. Libertina, though, I think, I don't know if it'll be on that level. I don't know if they'll make it that good. But then again, if your deck is all about Soul Charging heavily, then maybe it doesn't really matter if Apple Witch Cider can surpass those cards in shield value, because not every Genesis deck is about Soul Charging as much as possible. They can vary a bit, like Valkyrie and Astral Poets aren't really about building big soul anyway, so maybe Libertina has just been intended as more for Astral Poet support card, even though not many people, if anyone, is really playing it, but that's where it felt like it was taken into account. The second card, Yatagurusu, is a grade 3. Chances are, because it's not the poster cover card of the set, it might just be a rear guard, and that's more interesting because if you recall the original Yatagurusu, even though V-Series Angelica and Himiko didn't really reflect on the original versions, so Genesis does seem to be a bit less similar to the originals whenever they retrain them, but let's just hope that Yatagurusu is a multi-attack card of some sort, just like the original. Maybe the defense aspect, as described. Hold on a second. It said, when it attacks, activate a skill based on the total grade of cards Soul Blasted. So that's kind of similar in a way to Cider, where it's basing itself on how much soul you have, but this one's talking more about grades rather than the number of souls. That could potentially hint that maybe for every grade you have, you stand that amount of units, or maybe just gain power, but that wouldn't really feel like it belongs quite as much. So maybe it'll be a multi-attack card if it wants to be anything like the original. But then again, even Seer Yggdrasil, which is a multi-attack card, doesn't have any similarities to its original form. Like, they really made a lot of Genesis bosses hardly resemble the original, Artemis included. The other skill in addition has a skill to increase the shield of Guardians, so it sounds a bit like a Beatrice, where it could just increase shields of cards you're guarding with. I don't know if it will include the field, because Applewitch Cider does mention bouncing itself to hand, so it probably won't give intercept. It will probably just be like cards that you call to Guardian will just have a bit more shield than usual. It might just be a bit more like Bladewing Tibble or something. But even then, it might be a V/R skill as well. So in a sense, a bit like Beatrice. Then the third card, Demise Queen Himiko Reverse. Put a trigger card from your Soul's locked card and activates trigger effect. So it's kind of similar to the original V-Series Himiko, in that you're taking a trigger from a Soul, but instead of returning it to the bottom of the deck, you're calling it locked, but you're not activating 2 to 3 times, you're only going to activate it once. So that sounds kind of weaker than the other one. But then it's got the second skill. At the end of the turn, ride this card from Oracle Queen Himiko, and during your opponent's turn something happens, I don't know. Or maybe it works during your opponent's turn that way. It seems like it can ride itself around. I'm not sure what the point of that might be, besides accumulating force markers, just like Fortuna had its own force gaining gimmick. Doesn't sound like it's trying to pull a Raging Rapt or anything. Raging Form, sorry. So, kind of interesting. I think the main highlights will be Cider and Yatagarasu. By the way, Applewitch Cider is another witch card, so if any of you may be looking for a buff for the Genesis Witch subclan, you've got something there. The other two cards aren't really that amazing, to be fair. The ones from the last clan selection, or clan collection, they do have their own little contradictions with other witch cards, but Applewitch Cider, I think there's probably a better chance that this will mesh in more easily with witches, regardless of which build you're using, potentially. But then again, they do have a lot of... I'm just trying to think this through. So if you use cards like Snake Witch Mint or Pyretha, the Rainbow Witch, you are soul blasting cards and losing cards. But then you've also got like the Witch Stride, which can soul charge. So it could work, and you've got G Guardians as well. G Guardians can soul charge, so that could help Applewitch as well. That's another thing to consider, by the way. If you're worried about having more soul after you soul blast, you've always got the G Guard mechanic to help with that. Another thing that just crossed my mind, actually, is that Applewitch Cider does bounce the hand at the end of battle. So if you're looking to use cards like Onion or Cardamom, and I say Onion Cardamom rather than Melissa and Chamomile because they're the better versions for the Witch subclan, you could basically call Onion over the Cider without negging yourself. So you're basically gaining this card back in your hand, and you're also soul charging, but then when you get your Onion, you're not negging yourself while calling an extra attacker, or booster even in this case. So that could be quite good, actually. So I think there's a good chance it'd be good. And you can search it out as well with cards like Fixus. Technically Fennel as well, but I don't know how popular that card will be in people's lists. Even if Fennel technically has got a lot of good choices to add to hand, it's not got a force marker, so that's a bit of a turn off, I guess, for some. I think that's probably all I wanted to cover. There's not quite as much to talk about like with the Oracle Think Tank reveals, so I guess for now I'll just see you later when we get some reveals. I'm a little interested in these. I think a bit more interested than Witches, I'd say, because I've never really been too big into Oracle Witches anyway. So yeah, we'll just see what the new skills end up being. Until then, see you later, bye.